Hi, Soul Fam. How are we doing today? I want to talk a little bit about synchronicity. Synchronicity is when the universe aligns things for us, for our benefit, so we can be in the right place at the right time to have certain experiences, to learn certain things, to overcome potentially, in some cases, blocks or traumas or to heal parts of ourselves. People talk a lot about synchronicity. I think it's an interesting, there are certain traps I think you need to be very aware of. However, what I want to share today is it's sort of a case study for me in terms of synchronicity. So when I was in college, um, my girlfriend applied for a job, and it turns out I was studying economics. There were economics research jobs at the same place. So I applied and got a job there. No idea that that role even existed, except for the fact that I happened to be dating somebody who did and was pursuing that. So I ended up going out there, got the internship, and then the work I did there, as it turns out, was perfect for setting me up for my first job out of school, which was working at the Federal Reserve in DC and doing economics research, which was very similar to the types of systems and tools and analysis that I did in my internship. That's like synchronous in and of itself. But then I'm in this role, and a friend says, "Hey, do you want to go to New York with me? I'm house sitting in an apartment, cat sitting really, in Chelsea. And it'd be fun if we just went up there and explored New York and see what it's about." So I said, sure. Never been to New York. Now, I grew up in the Midwest, mostly in Iowa. And to me, I always knew I was a little bit of a fish out of the water in small towns. I always knew I was going to end up in a big town, big city. So to me, that was Omaha, Minneapolis, Des Moines, Kansas City, maybe Chicago. And I ended up in DC. So we go to New York and I loved it. I fell in love with it immediately. I saw myself at the restaurants. I saw myself at the bars and clubs. I saw myself, sort of the style of New Yorkers back then. I saw, imagined myself living in an apartment on a sleeper sofa in a studio that I could barely afford. Like I basically I set the energetic blueprint of me being there, living there over the course of that weekend. And then I visited a couple of other times. Now, the job that I had at the Fed was essentially a 2-year kind of stint. And so around the end of the 2 years, I was pulled aside by a friend of mine who said, "Hey, I've got a friend who's pretty senior in one of the prestigious investment banks in New York. Would you want to talk to them about an analyst job?" And I said, "Absolutely, I would like to do that." So got on a train, I went up there, and you know, six interview rounds, and 6 months later, I've got that coveted Wall Street job as an analyst. And I had set that intention probably a year earlier on that visit with my friend and did not lift a finger. I didn't do anything. So clearly I was meant to be there. And that's what we mean by being synchronicity. When you're in flow, in divine flow, things synchronously happen for you effortlessly. I'm going to butcher this, but I think the saying goes something like, "The master never lifts a finger, yet nothing goes undone." And a friend of mine always says that. I have no idea what the attribution is. I don't mean to copyright anything. Probably didn't even get it correct, but the energy of that is it comes to the master. The master of one's own reality receives that which he or she desires easily, simply, with very little effort.